Okay, so welcome back. This will be the second tutorial from a series of tutorials about Rhino or Rhinoceros 3D modeling CAD software. So in this tutorial, the idea is that we should be able to model this lamp. A very simple lamp with a few commands, and then what I did was adding some materials for a basic visualization and some lights that you can see there and inside the light over here. But anyway, okay, so let's start, and I will move a little bit faster this time so it won't be so boring. Okay, so from the beginning, I will hide what I'm working on and start modeling. I go to my all view here, and in perspective I will select ghosted. Remember that. I have the top, we have the front view, and we have our right view. Okay, so first of all I have to start with a box. We're gonna do a very fast exercise of how many ways you can do a box. First you can start by making polylines. Let's say beginning at 0, going upwards in 90 degrees, or I can choose ortho here. I will always be 90 degrees, or I can use the shortcut shift, pressing shift there, shift again over here more or less, and here, and then I have a closed groove. If somehow I didn't get this square right, I can write down points on, and it will show me which points this square has, and I can move these points from place to place by hand or just by writing down move, selecting the point, and moving to the desired location. In this case, it will be there. So now I have my rectangle here. I can do many different ways to do a cube or a box. It will be, first of all, we can do extrude curve, and it will tell me, okay, where do you want to go? And I can select both sides, solids, and delete the input. I want it solid, and I will tell him to go 20 upwards, and then I have my box. That's one way. So if you remember the previous exercise, we can do a planar surface and extrude the surface in this case. Same as before, both sides, solid, etc. Solid, 20 millimeters, enter. And then I have my other box. And of course, fastest and easiest way is to just click on here, box, corner to corner height. If you just click for 1 second, release, you will see all the other possibilities of things that you can do here. Box, cylinder, sphere, and ellipsoids, so on. So right now we're gonna do our box. Our box will start, our first corner will be at 0, the origin point. Then in our x axis, I want it to be 150 millimeters, that is 15 centimeters. Let's say in length and width, in the x-axis, the y-axis, sorry, I want it to be 100, there's 10 centimeters. And in depth or height, I want it to be 20 millimeters. So now I have this box over here. So sometimes it's very useful to see the surfaces of this box. So what I do mostly is to select the box, explode it, and join it again. So now we can see those iso curves there. They're just for representation, to let us understand that there is a surface. If somehow we wish to modify this surface of this object, we can, in a shortcut, we can press Command Shift or Control Shift in Windows and select a face, and I can release Command and Shift, and then I can move the face back and forth as I wish, and the object will change. And we can go back, and the same I can do with edges. So if I choose an edge and I do the same, it would change, but only the edge and not all the face. So right now I'm happy with my 90 by this box that I've made, that is 150, 120 in height. Okay, so first of all I have to do this little hole I had here in my other lamp. You see that hole over there? So what I will do is make a little rectangle first, or you can click here in rectangle, or you can write down rectangle. It will tell me which is the first corner of the rectangle. In this case I will do it by hand, and let's say, I'll do it, I'm gonna leave it over there. So I now have my rectangle in this box, in the bottom of the box. Remember, you can double click here and see in the top view if it's alright for you. You have more space to work with. I would like this rectangle to be a little bigger, and I can write here, and then I have my rectangle, the shape I wanted to have. Then I can go to my perspective view, and you will see that the rectangle is resting in the base of this box. So I know this box is 20 millimeters in height. I can confirm this by writing down distance command and selecting the first point and the second point. And then it will tell me down here, you have 20 millimeters in distance. Okay, so great. I want to move this rectangle 20 millimeters upwards. So now I know that this rectangle is resting in the top plane, or in the top face of this box. To make it easier and to work with, as we did before, we can choose this rectangle and move it to another other layer, sorry. In this case, the red layer. So I move it there, and now I have a red rectangle resting on top of this black box. So I need to do a hole here. So what I will do is to go to a front view in this case, and my right view. You see there's a smaller length from here to here than from here to here. That is because I'm looking at this object like that. And that's what I want, because I want to shift this rectangle in an angle, so I can delete it later from this square. So I'm going to my right view. And I know the rectangle is resting over there, so I will do a selection from left to right and cover the top face of this box. And you will see that I selected my rectangle. If I did the opposite, in this case, if I selected from right to left, it will select both box and rectangle. It will tell me here, you have selected one curve and you have selected one rectangle. No, one cube, one polysurface. One curve, one polysurface. A short way to select one object or multiple objects is by clicking on the object and then by pressing Shift and clicking in another object. Then I will select more than one. If I keep on going and selecting more objects with Shift pressed, I can select more objects. If I want to remove an object from the selection, I can press Command or Control in case of Windows. So I only want my rectangle. I will go to my right view in this case, and I will write down rotate. Rotate, what it does, it will simply rotate this object from the place I am telling him to rotate to the end of the reference rotation angle. So, for example, what I like to do is to rotate this from this point till this point. So again, I press rotate, will tell me center of the rotation. For me, is this axis. And what's the other reference point? The end of that rectangle. And I can move this rectangle up and down. For example, if I leave it there and I go to perspective, I can see that these rectangles have moved um, from this center of rotation upwards. So I can do it again. Go to my right view, rotate, but then if I choose another center of rotation, for example, if I choose here, and then I tell him this is my other reference point, what will happen is that the rectangle will start to shift from the beginning. You see? So that doesn't work for me, because what I want is to have this edge touching the upper face of this cube. So, okay, right angle here, my right view, rotate from this point to this point, and I can select here, I can input a number, like for the reference point, or I can input an angle. To input an angle, I have to include this symbol here and the number of the angle to follow. So we will add 10 degrees each time I move the mouse. You will see here, now it always moves in 10 degrees. So now I can go down here and say, okay, 10 looks nice, 20 is too much, I will leave it in 10. And now my rectangle, as you can see here in perspective, only this edge is touching the upper face of this box. So now what I want to do is to remove part of it, part of this box. So what I do is that I select this object and I have to move this upwards. I have to extrude it upwards. So there are many ways to do this. As we saw before, we can extrude curve, we can move the gumball, and then select and then press command, and we can also make a surface and extrude the surface. In this case, we're going to do something different. That is first moving the gumball to a position that will move the object upwards in relation to the bottom plane, to the origin plane, and not upward in the construction plane. Because if I move it upward this way, you will see it's also moving in the y-axis. So if I write down gumball alignment, you can see the command. It will show me many options. In this case, I can see C-plane. It will leave it where it is because it's our construction plane for this object. And if I try it again, I place this time world, you will see that the gumball will shift a little bit. Now it's looking from this plane upwards. And what I'm going to do is to move this first and then press command. You will see that a line appears. You see, if I release command and I press command, a line appears. That is the meaning. That's meaning that it's generating a surface. If I release the mouse and then I release command, you will see that this surface will be generated. So now what I can do to close this surface, I can cap it. Cap will cover this object and make it as solid. So now we have one polysurface, another polysurface, so two polysurfaces in this case, and one, and both are closed polysurface, and we can consider them as solids. Okay, so if I see my reference object, you can see that I'm looking to the other side. But it won't matter. We can do the lamp in the mirror way. Let's say we're gonna place the lamp here, over here. I'm sorry, and our papers we're gonna leave it this way. So what I'm going to do here is what will be getting two objects together or deleting one object with another. And all those commands come from this command over here, that is Boolean Union, Boolean Difference, Boolean Intersection, Boolean Split, and so on. We have many other options to do many different stuff. In this case, I would like to do Boolean difference. So it will tell me which objects to subtract from. From this object, I want to subtract, I go enter, I want to subtract this object, and I click that object. And then I have this option, delete input. If I click on here, it will delete the input. What's the input? This cube I generated. If I don't want it to delete that input, I just unclick that, then I press enter. And what will happen? That it will generate a small, let's say, slope or hole in our base. So now this box I can actually delete it because I don't need it anymore. So we have our first approach to our final lamp. It's taking shape. Oops. Okay, so now the second part. We want to make a cylinder here as the first part of our lamp, and then we're going to start constructing the lamp upwards. So I will, what I will do, I will go to my top view over here, and I will go here, click here, and go to cylinder. Or I can also write down cylinder in the command line. So the cylinder is gonna tell me, okay, where is the base of the cylinder, and I will click over here, and then it's gonna tell me which is the diameter of the circle. I will tell him I want a diameter of 40 millimeters. Okay, and then it's gonna tell me which is the end of the cylinder. In this case, which is the height. I can input it in the mouse by clicking the mouse, or I can input it with a special number. In this case, I will tell him to be 20. I'm done. Now I can see my cylinder here. It's looking to the side, and I have to move it here as I wish. I think there's a good point. But there's a problem here. You see that the cylinder is the same height as this other object here, as our basic, our base, let's say. So I'm going to move the cylinder by clicking on the blue arrow and moving it 5 millimeters upwards. So now we can see that there's a little difference in this cylinder with this base. What I'll do again here is Boolean difference. So I'll select Boolean difference, and I already have selected this object, so it's going to tell me which is this object you're going to delete. Subtract with, and I will select this cylinder. So now what will happen is that I will have a little how to say intrusion, or maybe just an inner cylinder where this one fits in, and it doesn't cross to the other side. So in real life it could work out. Next, I want to build the structure that is going to go from here up here. So what I want to do first is to build this polysurface. So I'm gonna hide this. Okay. So I need to do a cube or a box. I will go down here, press on box, and I'm gonna place it, let's say, yes, I'm gonna place it anywhere. I'm gonna build it upwards over here, and in depth it will have, I would say, 30 millimeters. So then I have this box. I explode it and join it again. So then we have this isocurves that will tell us that there's a surface that we can work with. Okay, so let's see if the dimensions that we want are okay. Writing down distance, selecting from here to here, I have 29 millimeters, but I don't like that. I want it to be 30 millimeters. This is 30 millimeters, that's okay for me. And up here it is 138 millimeters. Okay, so I want to change these dimensions of this cube. So we can do this in different ways. One is by manually moving the squares at the end of the gumball, for example, like that, different axes. Or we can write down a scale. We choose the object we want to scale, which is the origin point of this object. I'm gonna just play and scale it from here downwards and so on. But as we know like different dimensions from each side. I want this side to be 20, I want this side to be 30, and I want the tolerance to be 20 centimeters, 200 millimeters. So I will write down scale 1D. So it's scaling in one dimension. Which objects I want to change? This one. Which is the origin point? This one. Which is the other origin point? This one. The other reference point, I'm sorry. And I want to tell him this is 20. So I write down 20 and enter. Same as here. Scale 1D. Which object? This one. From where to where? And which is the dimension there? 30. Oh, I had something, maybe. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. And here as well. Scale. Scale 1D, sorry. Select the object, move it here to here. And I want this to be 200. Is it okay? Yeah, it looks nice. So I'm gonna go to my perspective view to see it closer and better. I think it's alright. Okay. So I want to move this object to this object center. So I need to put this plane on top of this plane. So what can I do is to select point, have my center point option here selected, and go close by to the cylinder, and it will show me a center. If I click, it's gonna put a point in there. And here there are many options I can do. I can use smart track to smart track down the point, like in the center. So if I place my mouse for a few seconds on one of the OSNAP points, another one over here, let's say, you have two white points, and then I can go and move my mouse over there. It's going to tell me, okay, there is the center point. I don't really like to use smart track. At least it's a very specific way to do this stuff. What I recommend is by looking yourself with one line here, one line here. Oops. It's not selecting, come on. Okay, I have my line there. So that line we know that crosses the center of this plane. But I want to be sure, I can select and make two lines. And then I will look for intersection. So you can see here I have selected intersection. And with that I have my center point in that object. The other way I like to do it is by exploding this object, selecting the face I'm working with, and writing down area or area centroid. What this will do is will place a point in the center of this object, the center area of this object. If I choose to do area centroid, but I had my entire cube or box joined, not exploded, and I write down area centroid, it will make a point in the middle of the box. But we want to use only this plane. So now we have two reference points, the middle point here and the middle point there. So what I want to do is to take this object, write down move. It will tell me move which point to move from. I want to move from this point. Remember, you have to have selected this option over here, this point to this point. And then we have move our cube or our box to the top of this cylinder. So now we want to give it an angle as this reference lamp. So what we do here is that we go to our right view. You can select all your views here. Say, okay, this is what I want to move. And we can try doing rotate again. Well, which is this time our center of rotation. Our center of rotation, and you can select in different viewpoints, is going to be our point in the center of the upper face of the cylinder. If I change the view where I'm working from, it's going to change where I'm rotating. So if I'm looking from the top, it's going to rotate from the top. If I look from the front, it's going to rotate from the front. If I look from the right, it's going to rotate from the right. So we have our center point over there, and I will go up here. I will just go by, because if I select the midpoint here, you will see that the rotation is not going to be planar. It's going to be a little bit shifted. That's because the point in the middle point here is shifted in comparison to the point in the bottom. So if I just go upwards and with shift pressed, you can see ortho there. If I release shift, it's no more 90 degrees. So shift allows me to have a right angle. Click it and then rotate it a certain angle. Let's say I want to rotate it 45 degrees. Remember the symbol, and now it's forced to move 45 degrees. So I will leave it there. Now I have this box placed on top of this, on the middle of this cylinder. So I would like to have a cylinder that will cover this entrance. So I'll go to my right view, choose cylinder from here, start a cylinder in the end here, intersection, then we can move it then. I'm gonna start from here. So I'm gonna move here to my midpoint, change the view, and put it over there. And with a depth of 30, let's say. So I know that the diameter of this cylinder is the same as the height of this object. And I will move this object to the center over here. I can look at this from the top. I will say, okay, I need some more millimeters, and then I'm in the center. So now it looks a little bit better. Anyway, it is a little bit too big, so I can actually shift it down a little bit by hand, and then we have it. Okay, so this is a command that is very interesting, that will make a window of an object, or it will hollow this object. That is called shell command. It will tell me which face, so select faces to remove from a closed polysurface. So it's important that your object is a closed solid. If I have this object but I'm missing one face, it will be open. In that case, I will have to check it. How can I close this object? And I can close it with cap. And sometimes I have to do another command that we're gonna see in the next tutorial. Now I'm going to select this face and this face. I'm gonna tell them that the thickness, I want to have this on is going to be 2 millimeters. I will write down okay. So you can see it made a window. If I only selected one face, what will happen is that we'll make a hollow object. You see? I would like to make this the thickness bigger. I will write down 3, and I will select this face and this face. So now it looks better, I think. Let's see. Thickness 3, enter this face and this. Oh, sorry. Cancel command with escape. Restart command with spacebar. This face and this face. Okay, that's better. That looks better. So now I want to have this object. We're gonna scale it down a little bit over there. We're gonna copy this object very simply by pressing the Alt button and the Shift button to make it uniform. And you can see the plus sign next to the mouse, and it's telling me I'm copying this object. And then I'm gonna make this object a little smaller, leave it there, and we have a cylinder inside a cylinder. So I will choose this cylinder and expand it only with the red square without pushing Shift or any other button, and I will have that. I will give it a better look. So now I can actually take this cylinder and press here Boolean Union. This will merge both solids into one. So now you see I have only one solid. And I need this solid to be also in this other part of this object. So what I will do is I can copy it from one point to another. I can mirror it from one plane using one mirror plane, or I can orient it. So let's try both the 3 ways to do this. So I will write down copy. So it will tell me from which point do you want to copy. I know that this point interferes with that point, with that part of the cylinder, and that point too. Then I can right click to exit command, and you will see that my cylinder has copied. Then go back, I will do the same, but this time with mirror. So it will tell me which is your mirror plane. I will go to my view here. I will tell this is your plane I want you to mirror. You see, but if I press shift, it will always do 90 degrees, and I cannot select it carefully there, but I can tell him to follow an angle, 45 degrees in this case, that I know that this shape is already in. So then I have my cylinder there as well. The other way is to use Orient Object. And there are 2 types of Orient. In this case, we're going to see only one. This Orient, normal Orient and Orient 3-point. In this case, we're going to use Orient only. I'm going to tell them this is the object we want to orient. And this is the first point of reference. This is the second point of reference. And I want you to copy it to this point, to this point. So then we have 3 ways, or 3 different ways to move this object. What happened here is that I told the object to orient itself, or orient by us clicking these points, but I didn't add the option of copying it. So I can go back, orient again, and here where it says copy, select copy. And first reference point, second reference point, and target points over there, and finish my command. So it's taking shape. The thing is that now we have to add this other, it's a copy of the one in the bottom. and this one is a little bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down. I can move it like that to scale it, or I can actually tell him, okay, I want to scale you by 0.5. It's gonna scale by half. I can move this one over there, just for it to touch over there, and copy this one next to it. Sorry. Remember, Alt and moving the gumball. That will copy the object. So now you can see I have two. This, what I want to do is to orient, to actually rotate it also, as we did before. So I'll go see my views here. That's the object I want to orient. Rotate. This is the center of the rotation from this part to this part. So then easily, fast, we have already two joints in the beginning and in the middle. So now we're very close to having our final model. Next, it's very similar to what we have already. So we have to put a light. It's like a cube, a modified cube, and this little extra detail to make it more beautiful, I would say. So we can copy this also with Alt and moving the gumball over here, placing it on the space we want it to be placed. If we want it to be in the right position, we can always copy it. We have to copy this object from this place to this place. So great. Now we have to add this cube and remove what we don't want from here. So the light is looking inwards. I'll move this one. I can move a little distance. You know, we know that the distance from here to here is 10 millimeters. Let's say here to here, 10. So I can move this one by pressing on the red arrow, -10, enter. It's gonna move 10 millimeters that way. And now we're gonna add the box, the light box. And we're gonna make a box in the middle of the space with a depth, I don't know, 55 centimeters. Will be good. We can always change this. So first, we want to push this next to the joint here. We can tell this joint that we want to delete this part that we don't need, and tell him, okay, Boolean difference with this object, and it's gonna cut out the piece that we don't need. Then remember, exploding, joining will give me the isocurves to understand that there are surfaces, and I can modify the surfaces by Command Shift, clicking on the face and moving it inwards. For example, I can click on the edge and move it inwards like that, and so on. This is a little bit too large. I can move it upwards. So now it's taking shape. It's better. We can see in our model that we have a hollow object here. But we used this command before. So remember, shell thickness. We can find 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters in this case. You want to change it, feel free. And selecting only one face, and you will have hollow object. So we're almost there. There's some details we have to find to add, and we will have our light finished. And then we can check out the visualization in another time. So first, I have to add this little details on these objects, because no object in the world is completely sharp. So first, let's start with the bottom here. This command is called fillet edge. What it does, it fillets the edge of a solid. So we got a radius of 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. And then I can also modify by hand by adding a little bit more radius here and a little bit more here. So I will give it a little bit a different shape, a more modern shape. And I can do some fillet again. Let's see, from here to here, so it's very smoother. But that won't work out. So we'll try it again another time. So here as well, want it to be 3 millimeters, and it will add that little inward, like telling me like the light can be moved or is placed in a solid base. As well here, the thing is that if our radius here is too big, it will give us an error. In this case, it's exactly 3 millimeters, but if I tell him to do it in 4 millimeters, what will happen is something really weird, but it will tell us right away that it's not going to work as we intended. So fillet 4, okay, and there. You see that the arc is away or further away than the object, and this will happen. So object will will stop being a solid object, and it will start being an open object, because this surface overpassed the surface that that the solid had as a restriction, just to say so. So we'll do a fillet, but in this case we're gonna do 2 millimeters. Enter this part here and this part here. First, let's do 1 millimeter because we're having errors. The lamp is too small. So 1 millimeter there, 1 millimeter here, and then we have a more rounded shape. We can add here and so on. There, okay, 1 millimeter. Looks better. This one over here, what, 1 millimeter. Looks nice. Oops. Computer stopped. Sorry for that. Then we can continue doing some fillets as well as inside here. I will tell him to do a 3 millimeter radius from here, and here. Let's see if it works. Oops. Just the border up here. Okay. So then we have a smoother surface up there. And so on, you can continue on doing some fillets. And also I want to teach you something that is called chamfer edge. That will do the same as fillet, but in this case it's gonna be a cutout. So for example, I want a chamfer edge from here, but I want it to be 4 millimeters here, sorry, here, and it will do a cutout. So then you can play with that and have different finishes for each part. I will always recommend you to do your fillets and chamfers and all those details at the end of your model, because going back is much harder once you have it done. So now we have very similar lamp. Looks like the same. That's it. Just looking the other way. And that will conclude most of the tutorial for today. It is you will see that mostly everything is done this way with very simple commands and just cubes, modified cubes, and then filleting, chamfer, and modifying by hand sometimes, getting the dimensions right, the angles, and so on. The last part, just for visualization, what we like to do is to add some, because if we render this, we put it here in the view, we put render it, you can see that this shape is very, very like gray with no actual life on it. And you can easily go here to material, you select the object, and here in basic you can go down, display, color, let's say materials. Display material, and here material we can add object, and then we can say edit. It will open a new window. It will tell us we'll have some materials here, standard, not many, but it's fine for what we want to do here. And we can go here and select, okay, I want this weight mate, move it over there, and I can also modify that material if I want. For example, I can add materials. This is another like kind of part of all these CAD softwares, but sometimes just for understanding, it's better to just give it place some materials, and then like here I have the high gloss plastic, and I can change the material color to something more greenish. In this case, let's put it more greenish to make it different from the other one that is right there. And I can go and put also, let's say that we want these parts red, this one too, and we can select, let's say another anything that will work out. We can put grass. Let's put grass on it. So now it has a grass lamp, and so on. You can play with that all over whenever you want. And well, final product will look like this. Just by adding some lights, you go up here, have spotlight at the very end. You can create a point of light. There are those lights that are standing up there. They work as sunlight, for example, or a spotlight to create something like this. So we can, for example, show you, I have this light, push up there. It's looking to the other side. Then you can see how the light, you can place lights in different scenes and see how they work in an object. So that will be it. I hope you understand and you can practice. Please practice and continue practicing. This is the key to understand and start modeling, and in the future we will be working in fabrication. We could actually 3D print these parts and so on. So good luck and thank you.